I want to share with you the shift that I made that honestly, it's changed everything. It's changed so much. And I so desperately wish I had made this shift sooner in my motherhood, sooner in my life, really. I was just talking to my brother. I have a brother who's 15 years younger, and I was basically pleading with him, like, if you can make this shift sooner, I think it will change everything for you. I filmed basically my early morning. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. I'm actually 34 weeks pregnant with my sixth child, which you might be saying, Lana, that sounds absolutely crazy. You know, it sounds a little crazy to me. Sometimes I can't even believe that we're about to have our sixth child. But I mean, really, the way I look at it, motherhood's been great. It's been hard, not easy, but it wasn't easy with one. It wasn't easy with two. There really wasn't an easy number. It's just been a lot of leveling up slowly but surely, but also a big humbling to myself and learning to let go of the things that don't matter as much. But today I want to share this one shift that if you can make it, and I know you can, I think you'll see significant changes in your life. So much so that when my husband and I, we just got back from a little getaway, and we go on this little getaway at the end of every year. And all in all, we came back from the retreat and we realized we feel a lot more hopeful in life. And it kind of boils back down to what I'm going to talk about today. We both have made this shift. And so that's why I'm so excited to share it with you today. So I'm going to pause really quick and tell you, this is Girl Teach Me. My name is Lana. This whole channel is here to be a help to newish moms. You know, if you're not a mom and you're watching this, I really still think you can glean a lot of value out of this video, because while I'm talking about how it applies to motherhood, I'm talking about life in general. And so the other thing I want to tell you really quickly, I say all my videos, if you're pregnant, I have a free class down below. Really what I'm talking about today in this video, but as it applies to pregnancy and changing your whole birth experience. So I don't want you to miss out on that. That link is down below. So when I was pregnant 2 years ago, I read a book, and it's a book that I continued to hear about time and time again in other books. And when you start to hear about books like that, you're like, okay, all right, I'm just going to go to the source. I want to read this book. So I read two books simultaneously because I love to bounce back and forth. And the first book, and can you tell it's hard to breathe because I'm so pregnant, but it was Viktor Frankl's book called Man in Search of Meaning. I had heard many different authors I respect, one of which is Elizabeth Elliot. She was an amazing missionary woman, huge in the faith. She's gone to be with the Lord, but she talked about Viktor Frankl. And so while I knew that Viktor Frankl himself wasn't a Christian, and I am a Christian, I was very intrigued to read this book. The other book I read at the same time was The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. And I actually ended up naming my fifth daughter Corrie after the author Corrie ten Boom. Both of those authors tell their real life story of going through World War II. Viktor Frankl told his story from the viewpoint of being a Jewish man who lost his pregnant wife through the whole Nazi Germany scenario. He was put in a concentration camp. Okay, and then Corrie ten Boom actually lived, and I think it was Holland, and she hid Jews, her and her family, and eventually was put in a concentration camp where her sister Betsy died and her father died. But she gave her life for trying to protect the Jews. Those were such interesting books to read at the same time. Okay, Lana, what's your point? What Viktor Frankl points out in that book is that the thing that he realized through his experience in the concentration camp is that they could take everything away from him. Everything. They could take his wife, his child, his family. He lost both his parents. They took his research away that he had spent a lifetime working on. He lost everything, but the one thing they couldn't strip away from him was his power to choose. That's what I'm going to talk about today, our power to choose. What do I mean by that? The power to choose. I really had to wrestle with this. Is this what I felt like the Bible was saying? You know, because I don't want to just grow in worldliness and worldly knowledge. I really wanted to, does God give us that is that really our last great freedom? And honestly, I think it is, because though Viktor Frankl was a Jew, he wasn't a Christian. He realized that if they took everything away from him, he still got to choose the way he saw things. He still got to choose whether he was thankful for that piece of bread. He still got to choose whether he was thankful for that flower, that small flower that he saw by the gate or by the edge of the fence, and taking delight in that small flower. He got to choose whether he was going to despair or not, give up hope or not. That was his choice. And time after time, he saw men in that concentration camp give up that power to choose, grow hopeless, and they were usually the first to die. What this has spoken to me is that no matter the situation I'm facing in motherhood, in life, in marriage, God does give me the power to choose, the choice to respond. I even saw this with my motherhood anger. I used to struggle with anger. I still do struggle with anger. I mean, it doesn't fully ever go away, but what I realized that moment before I would just blow my lid and go into some kind of like rage was that I did have a power to choose. Sometimes even the choice of whether I was going to get worked up about something or what the thought that I was going to allow to be in my brain. It was so small and so subtle, but such a fork in the road. And so why my husband and I feel so much more hopeful is because when we realize that our last great freedom is the power to choose, it's so freeing. Because now I'm not hopeless. Now, no matter how hopeless the situation feels, how out of control a situation may feel, I still get to choose how to respond. And actually, my husband and I got in a fight. It's funny enough, after the retreat, we were doing so well and then had this little tiff. And I was frustrated. I was frustrated with him. But what I had to realize was I had the power to choose how I was going to respond, and he couldn't respond for me. I had to choose, was I going to go down a dark path in my brain and make it way worse than it needed to be, or I could choose a different way. And so what's also been very freeing is when we don't give up the power to choose, we're not blaming anybody else. There's nobody else to blame, because I still get to choose at the end of the day what I'm thinking about, what I'm thankful for. Oh my goodness, gratitude is one of the greatest weapons to use with that power to choose. It's like choosing gratitude will almost always kick me out of any kind of like villain energy I have, any kind of mom rage, any kind of frustration I may feel with those around me. It sounds so trite, but we give up that power to choose when we grumble, right? When we complain about other people and we make it out that they're always the problem, we're resigning that power to choose. And so, like, as I'm going through this early morning, getting up early has been something I had to realize I do have the power to choose to make better habits. It is within my control to get up early. Now, sometimes it's not wise to get up early. Like if I'm waking up with a baby throughout the night, I have the power to choose like, hey, maybe I don't get up at the crack of dawn, but I can always choose how I respond. I can always choose how I think about that. I can always choose, like I said, gratitude. I can. There's something very small in almost every situation that I can control. And when we don't give away that control, it's very, very freeing. And how this ties in with my faith is I feel like for so long I was blaming others. I was blaming situations. I was grumbling, but I thought that there was somebody else to blame, whether it was my husband. I was waiting on somebody else to come save me in my motherhood. Oh, it's been a long day. I've been home alone, and I start feeling sorry for myself. And I started giving up that power to choose. But when I took it back, oh my goodness, it was just so incredibly freeing to realize that I get to choose how I look at this situation. And so, just getting up in the morning, I can try to make the better choice of getting in the Word or journaling, going to bed at a decent hour. Like these little bitty choices, sometimes when we look at our lives and we're not where we want to be, I think it is so helpful to just analyze, like, what can I control? What's one thing I can change? Like, I can move my body for 10 minutes a day. I can put on real clothes. I can brush my hair. I can lay out the word on my Bible on the counter and just try to get it in me some way, somehow. I can look my child in the eyes and give a smile and greet them in the morning. I can try to, like, presented with two choices of types of food, I can try to make the better choice. I can drink more water. Like, just changing this thought changed everything, because I realized, okay, there's big grand things we want in life. Like, we want to be healthier. We want to be a better mom. We want to have a better marriage. But underneath all of those really big things are a million small decisions that God gives us the power to choose. I mean, ultimately, the power to choose to love God. That's a choice. He doesn't make us love him. He gives us that choice. And so I think if you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, and especially, as we roll into a new year coming up soon, and we want to see progress in our life, maybe it's less of outcomes that we want. A lot of us want certain outcomes. You might want to lose weight. You might want to make more money this year. You might want to have this or that. Those are like really outcome oriented goals, and that we can't always control exactly the end. We can't control the outcome, but what we can control, power to choose wise, is all these micro habits and really micro decisions and micro thoughts that are going to move us probably towards that outcome, right? And I think that is the most powerful shift that you and I can make, is stop blaming anybody else, because we're just passing off the control. We're giving up that power to choose, and it's going to leave us feeling hopeless every single time, to then say, you know what? I can make a better choice. I can, especially if we're a believer, with the help of the Lord, I can do what's right. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my favorites was Elizabeth Elliot. And one thing she was famous for saying is, do the next right thing. When you don't know what to do the next right thing. When you can't figure out what to do in 10 minutes because you're so full of grief, or you're so bogged down, or you're so depressed, or it's so overwhelming, do the next right thing. And that is exercising the power to choose in a really, really helpful way. But we also use the power to choose in really negative ways. And I think the more that we pass the blame, our life is not going to feel great, because we're going to resign that control. We're going to feel so very, very helpless. For so long in my life, I avoided taking ownership of my life because I didn't know how to face the music. I didn't like some parts of my life, and I didn't know how to reconcile the fact that I felt like I was trying, but I didn't like my life. But when I stopped blaming other people and stopped waiting for other people to save me, and I'm saying like humans to come save me, then I realized, okay, it's up to me. And again, like, I'm a Christian, and so underneath everything, the Lord, like, he is my firm foundation. And I know he's never going to leave me nor forsake me. He is my firm footing. But also this very interesting blend that while God is sovereign and he's in control and he knows everything that's going to happen, he still gives man the choice. He still gives man the opportunity to choose him, to choose what is right. If you're not familiar with, the Bible language of like sanctification, it's where we grow in our Christ likeness over our lifetime. And there's 3 parts of sanctification, but we won't be fully sanctified until we get home. But there is a part of sanctification that we get to have this active part in with the Lord. It's a very strange mystery where we're partnering with the Lord in becoming more sanctified and becoming more holy. And yet he lets us partner with him. It's such an interesting thing that God allows us to partner with him. And I think it's this power to choose that Viktor Frankl was getting at. Viktor Frankl went on with the rest of his life. He did survive the concentration camp by just a couple of weeks. And he spent the rest of his life basically preaching a message of the power to choose, and how it radically change depression. He saw it radically change depression in adolescents, that when they realized that there is something that they could do, that they're not helpless, they're not hopeless. And if you find yourself in a pit of depression, I have struggled with depression here and there. It's like a dark cloud that rolls in. I have to realize, and I have to preach to myself in those moments, Lana, you don't have a lot of energy today, and you don't feel like you can do a lot, and that's really hard. It's not going to feel like this forever, but there are choices that I get to make in those days, that even if I have to manage from the couch because the energy is so low, I still don't have to give up that power to choose. This has changed my motherhood. This has changed my marriage. Like I said, I stopped blaming Matt for all of my problems in life. This is the analogy I use with my kids more than anything. When we have a discipline talk or something in the bathroom, and they want to tell me everything that their sibling has done. And what has been really helpful is like, okay, let's imagine that the whole situation is a pizza. And even if your sibling is 10 slices of pizza and your sibling is 9, can you please tell me about the one slice that is yours? And if they're insistent, they don't even have a slice of the pizza. Like, it is the 100% that other sibling. I'm like, okay, what's a pepperoni? Like, what's one piece of the pizza you can own? Even if when you were wronged, you did the wrong thing with your pain. And that's really what a villain is. I'm not sure if you've ever realized this when you watch a movie, but if you watch any kind of villain story, I think one of the most fascinating ones was like the Cruella de Vil story. There's a lot of movies that have come out that kind of show the backstory of the villain. And typically they have pain. I mean, they have real, legitimate pain, but they simply did the wrong thing with the pain. They rose up in their pain and said, nobody's going to make me feel like this again. And instead of living their life on behalf of another, which is what a hero does, they do the opposite. And they selfishly do the wrong thing with their pain. And so that's what I'm trying to help my kids understand is, okay, maybe you just even responded the wrong way. And how typical, right? I mean, I do this all the time. I respond the wrong way in my pain. The pain could be as simple as being up all night with a baby who is sick, and it's hard. It's hard not getting sleep. It's painful. Or it could be, I'm having to deal with rambunctious boys and they're tearing my house apart, and they're not even necessarily trying to be bad, but it's just making my life harder. I have the power to choose. Like, am I going to lash out at them and be harsh, or am I going to coach them and have the heart of a teacher, or give them a situation where they can be rambunctious and it doesn't tear my house apart? Go out on the trampoline, guys, and go wrestle. I think in the new year, or even just today, whatever time of year you're watching this, to be honest, I think today is the day, the power to choose. What can you take back that choice on that you have been resigning, giving it away to somebody else because you've been giving that other person power by saying that they're to blame, when really maybe even the choice is to forgive? Because when we withhold forgiveness, it's like us drinking poison and hoping another person will die. Like, it's really only hurting us. So sometimes the power to choose is forgiveness. Sometimes the power to choose is starting a new habit. Sometimes the power to choose is asking the Lord for help. I mean, we cannot do this. I am so convinced that I could not do motherhood alone. I could not do it without the higher power help of Jesus and ultimately what he's done for me on the cross. I mean, you are free to totally believe what you want. I'm just saying, in my motherhood, there is simply no way. If you knew me before I came to Christ, I was an incredibly selfish person. I could not have taken that selfishness and the shame of how I lived my life before Christ into motherhood. As bad as I've been in motherhood, it would have been a million times worse. And so sometimes the power to choose is like throwing up our hands and saying, I'm never going to be good enough to come to God. I just have to come as I am. And he's ready to take us as we are. And so I know for me, that was the most powerful choice I ever made, was to stop trying to clean myself up for the Lord and just come as I am. So I just want to encourage you today that if you feel low, if you feel helpless, if you feel like life is not where you want it to be, the great news is take back that power to choose and make the next right decision. Do the next right thing. little by little by little, hope will return to you and you will start to feel a bit more in control of your life. And it's absolutely thrilling and it's absolutely freeing. And I'm so excited for you. I loved spending time with you today. I want your life to change for all the better. I am so excited for you. I totally believe in you. I genuinely think that your life is so very important. And if you're a mom, nobody's going to tell you how important your work is, but it's insanely important to the betterment of your family, to the betterment of the world. Being a mom is a really big job. And so exercising the power to choose in your motherhood is going to radically change your family. And I'm so excited for you. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.
It's so unnecessary dwelling about the past, 'cause I know that God is good. He led me to where I'm at. Sometimes I feel like giving up, you're giving in, but everything happens for a reason. It won't always be blue skies ahead. Sometimes you might need a helping hand, just like iron sharpens iron, making me stronger, calling me higher. When we come together, just like iron sharpens iron, making us stronger, calling us higher. When we're helping each other, we're growing together.